I'm just going to set that there by you, all right, Steve? So when did you first join the Navy?
1929, March.
In March of 1929?
Yeah,
How old were you?
18.
18.
I had to get my tonsils taken out though to get in. So I went and had the tonsils out and went back to see him. He says, okay. Well, he took me in. You know, that was kind of tough days at that time.
Yeah, that was pre-antibiotics, wasn't it?
Not only that, it was, work was that bad. It was a kind of a low period of time too for employment.
So what were you doing before you joined the Navy?
I was working in the silk mill, weaving, broad silk weaving. And my dad was the electrician there at the plant. He got me in. And so I was weaving with silk. You got all these threads on the machine and you got these shuttles that go back and forth.
Uh-huh.
Got a smash one day. Two of them ran together. That really split them up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and they had one person there that that's all they did was take over the thing, get all these threads out, get them threaded through. And anyway, they decided they were going to strike. They wanted a nickel an hour more.
How much were you getting paid then?
I don't recall. It wasn't too much. But after about 2 weeks of that, I had enough. So I said, well, didn't know what to do, and then I happened to think, oh, my Uncle Howard had done Navy time. He was over in Turkey, I remember, get a card from him. So I thought, well, I'll just see about joining the Navy. I went down to recruiting a guy and said, what's the chances of getting in the Navy? He said, well, first you got to have a little physical. So he says, come back tomorrow, the doctor will be around. And then he checked his eyes and said, you have to have your tonsils out. So okay, I got them out. I guess about a week and a half or two I went back down. He said, you're okay. So I got sent down to Norfolk, boot camp down there. And they gave us all the tests. And then later on they said, well, we could do, we're put in for it. So I didn't know of anything in particular, but they decided they'd send me to radio school.
So this is when you're an enlisted man, they sent you to radio school.
Yeah. They sent me to radio school, which I kind of enjoyed. Learned to type, right? Learned to code. Learned through simple electronics how to take care of a battery and things like that. And anyway, I did all right. I got through that school, and I was assigned to a destroyer, a good old skink, DD-159.
What was the name of it?
S-C-H-E-N-K.
Skink.
Yeah, USS Skink, DD-159.
So those were how big were the guns in those destroyers?
Well, they had a 4-inch on the forecastle. I had the bridge down there, had a 4-inch there. The others were pretty small stuff. But we had torpedo tubes, and we had the cans in the back that you drop, depth charges.
Oh, depth charges, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But expected life was 90 seconds in battle.
Yeah.
That's why they call them tin cans.
Yeah.
expected life was 92nd. Anyway, I liked the duty. It was all right. I had a good crew. I had a really good chief on there that he insisted that I do a lot of practice on spending time on learning how to copy and send out traffic.
Now it was all sent in code then, right? There wasn't, you didn't do voice over the radio, did you?
No, it was
Okay.
all code. Yeah. And we had an old spark gap transmitter that was our emergency equipment, just all set up in a little room on the fantail.
How does a spark gap generator work?
Don't ask me. Boy, I tell you, that thing, you didn't know whether you wanted to stay around it or not.
Well, it didn't run, did that run off batteries or no?
No.
Was pedal operated or?
No, it was operated with by generator, a small generator that made a spark, boy, I'll tell you. And you'd be around that thing very long. But then we had equipment earlier. So the early equipment was pretty good stuff. In 1929, it was amazing, the stuff that they had then. It was really good.
So where did the skink take you?
Oh, we went down. What we did was we would take reserves on cruise, like a 2 weeks cruise.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd pick up maybe a group up in Bangor, Maine, or somewhere like that, and take them out get down to the Caribbean down there and tour around a couple of places. And
Pretty rough tour then.
No, not bad.
Not in the Caribbean, huh?
Nah, not bad.
So these were like Naval Reserve groups you'd pick up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a group of anywhere 12 to 20 guys.
Okay.
That was their month's duty or whatever it was they had to do.
Sure.
And no, they were good tours. We kind of training. We'd go out on firing exercises and things like that, and kind of clue them in onto operating the ship, and they got to test firearms and things like that from, like when we're out in the bay touring around out there. They get out there with a gun and
So that was 1929 through, so where else did you go besides the skink?
Oh, the skink, I was on that for a couple of years. And 1930, I was assigned to a radio direction finder station in Price's Neck, Rhode Island. And I was there for a year, and there we took bearings on commercial ships. If they're going to enter a harbor, if it was foggy or anything like that, we'd have to furnish them with bearings. Well, we had a big chart with strings. And you draw a string down from this ship, string down from that ship, one from here.
Mm-hmm.
And where they crossed, that was bearing. That was their location.
Sure.
Well, I did a year there, and then I was transferred up to Cape Cod, and all the way out North Truro. We had a lighthouse there, and we had a radio station too. And the radio station, we took bearings on ships entering the harbor there too. I did a year there, and I got off of that. They got orders to go to China Well, Philippines, radio station, NPO. And that was located at that time in the Philippines. It was up in the hills. And they had their transmitting station was down at a place across from Manila Harbor. And anyway, I was up there for a couple of weeks, and they asked me if I knew Morse code. I said, well, I had passed the required 7 words a minute, and they said, well, we're going to send you down to the office. I said, we have an office, he said, down there in the Navy Yard, and that's a telegraph office. And you'll be working the Philippine observatory, weather observatory, and the Army. Let me tell you, those guys were old-time operators. And I really learned early on how to send fast and accurately. So anyway, I held that job down all right. And then they decided they were going to move the radio station down in the Navy Yard. They were going to build a building for it there. And when they were setting that up, they said, well, we got a job for you to do. So I got on the Genesee, which was a big tugboat that they used to run up to Longapole and back. Just take stuff along up there, and bring it back. And it's just a little transport tug. The guy, the radioman that was on there, got sick or something, so he put him in the hospital. And I was on there about 6 months, I guess. So that gave me a little bit of touch of different. I was the only radioman on it.
What's the crew on the tug like? How many do they have?
Oh, we only had half a dozen people.
Yeah, I was going to say, they aren't very big boats.
No.
Huh.
Well, this was a pretty good sized tug, though. We used to haul a lot of stuff up to Longapole, and supplies and things, all kinds of stuff. Made a run up maybe once a month or once a week. Just depended on what they needed up there. Anyway, that was where I learned to fish for sharks. We used to get a chunk of meat and put it on a rope and a hook and throw in there and catch these big sharks.
Really? Do you let them go then, or do you eat them?
Oh, no, we didn't. We didn't eat them. No, we just hook them and get them detached and let them go back.
Jeez.
I guess the biggest one that I can remember ever catching was about 12 feet.
Holy cats.
That was a big shark.
How do you detach that once it's hooked down there?
Axe.
An axe?
Sure. Shot him in the jaw.
Holy cats. Jeez.
Yeah.
So what years would these have been then when you were in the Philippines?
Well, that was 36. I went out, 1936 I went out. And then 1937, I just happened to get a good sending thing. I sent out about a 500 message. They're 5-letter code groups. Mm-hmm. And I sent it to the flagship, which was Commander-in-Chief Asiatic Fleet was the flagship out there. And I was at NPO, which was the radio station in the Philippines. And I was on the circuit, and I sent out this 500 group message. I got a letter back. excellent speed sending. And in 2 weeks, the guy that sent that message had me out on board. It was a cruiser, the Augusta.
The Augusta.
Yep, I was out there assigned to the Augusta. So I was assigned to the flag, and I guess it was on there for about, I don't know, 7 or 8 months, and went back to the Navy Yard again. And I was there when the war broke out.
Now, what do you remember about going through the Panama Canal? Because you started out on the east coast of the United States, and then you ended up in the Pacific. So you went through the Panama Canal, or right?
Yeah.
No. Did you stop and stay in Panama at all, or just?
No, the only thing we did was when we got through on the other side, the captain took the ship and went off somewhere, and he anchored, and we started fishing. And boy, we had fish you couldn't believe. We were using the washroom to cut them up, you know, and everything. But that was fun. Anyway, then we went on up to San Diego. Yeah, and up to San Diego from there. And I got transferred back to a ship that was over on the East Coast, and that was in part of the reserve fleet at that time, the Sands.
So you came around, did you come around on the Skank? Or no, what did you come on through the Panama Canal?
Yeah.
Up to San Diego?
Yeah.
And got transferred on a reserve fleet ship?
Yeah. Yeah, and then at that time I had a little Ford sedan. I drove cross country and wound up down in Norfolk where the Sands was being reactivated.
The which one?
The Sands.
How do you spell that?
S-A-N-D-S.
Oh, Sands, okay.
There's another destroyer.
Okay.
And
so were these like World War I era destroyers that were being reactivated?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were being reactivated.
Sure.
So anyway, I got on that, reactivated, and when they went to active duty again, we went out to the West Coast again.
So twice through the Panama Canal in a pretty short time.
Yeah. Anyway, I see. Oh, yeah. I got transferred then. I was, when I went to Rhode Island, did it the year, that would have been 1931. Yeah. And then I went to Cape Cod, did another year there, and now we're up to 36.
Yep.
And in 36 I was ordered out to NPO.
Yeah, in the Philippines.
In the Philippines, yeah.
So that's where you sent your 500, was it 500 words of code?
Yeah.
That landed you on the Augusta.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there. I got a really nice message from the captain who was the then communications officer.
So how long did you end up in the Philippines?
Well, I went back to the Philippines and I was there when the war broke out.
In 41, right?
No, it was
No, sooner than that.
40. Something about 39, there was some fuss started or something or other, but the Japs didn't come in to get us until, I think that was 41.
Right.
Yeah. And of course we got bombed out, the yard was cleaned out pretty well. And we went over to Manila. We took over the RCA station. And then Manila was declared an open city, and we had to get out of there. So we went out to Corregidor. And what radiomen there were left. And I guess there was supposed to be 2 lots of them. We're supposed to go down to Australia to set up a communications station. And we're on Corregidor now, we're excess, really. So they decided instead of the whole crew, they were only going to take 14 people. And then they had 14 people, and they decided they were going to run the Peary out, which had been under repair in the Navy Yard at that time. Mm-hmm. And it was slightly damaged, but it was strange that all the torpedo tubes had been taken off, and all it was painting that, and all kinds of stuff like that. And it was slightly damaged anyway by the bombing, but they decided they can run it out. But they could only take 7, so we put our names in a hat. And I was one of the 7 that was picked to go out on the Peary. Later on, they sent out the Bulmer, which was another destroyer. And I guess they took the rest of the crew, or part of the rest of them that were left to go out.
Oh, the remaining 7 of the 14 radio operators? So the Peary left from where? The naval station in Kaviti?
The Navy Yard.
In Kaviti?
Yeah.
Now, when did Kaviti get bombed?
Oh, we got bombed 3 days after Pearl Harbor.
3 days after. And you were in Kaviti at the time in the Naval Yard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there when they got bombed.
What do you remember about the beginning of that?
Oddly enough, we had a little Filipino boy that was like a mess cook. He used to shine our shoes and one thing and another.
Uh-huh.
And we sent him to a little radio school we had there.
The Filipino boy?
The Filipino boy. And he came out of radio school, and we put him on watch in the station.
Mm-hmm.
So this one day, I just happened to be going around checking up on who was there and what they were doing. And I looked at his log. He'd been typing, "Air raid, this is no drill." This was Honolulu was sending out a message. "Air raid, this is no drill." And he had been copying a whole page of this.
Oh, wow.
Boy, I yanked the paper out. I took it down to the officer, and I said, "We got a problem."
So this was during Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was during Pearl Harbor. So I took it and gave it to the officer, and he disappeared with it. Well, at that time, they had a bunch of stuff that they had put on the baseball fields in the Navy Yard. Crates of anti-machine guns and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, like anti-aircraft guns?
Yeah. All this was sitting there, all still packaged.
In crates? On the baseball field?
Right, on the baseball field. And of course they came in bombing us then, but before they got to us, they had bombed the airfields.
Which airfields?
The U.S. airfields.
In Kaviti?
Well, they were somewhere around the location in the Philippines.
Okay.
And anyway, they bombed them out, and all we had was, I guess, just a few little planes got up there and tried to shoot down some Japs. One guy got shot down, went back up again, got shot down again.
Wow.
You could see them come over out there. There'd be a group of anywhere from about maybe 20 in a formation, flying over in a V formation.
In a V?
And you could see these damn bombs dropping.
Jeez.
Yeah, and anyway, they said to us, well, you got to get out of here because the station had been hit and it was on fire. So we said, go over to the transmitting towers, which are over across a little causeway. Mm-hmm. And these are 300-foot towers that we had for transmitting. So we went over there, and they said, well, you can't stay here. You're better off to go over to Manila. So then the group of us went over to Manila, and we took over the RCA buildings. And then when Manila was declared an open city, we had to get out of there.
And that's where you got split onto the
And that's
Peary.
when we go to Corregidor.
On the Peary, right?
Yeah, well, we got to the Peary after we were in Corregidor.
Oh, okay.
2 days. Oh, yeah, we were there, I guess, maybe 8-10 days. And we were part of a crew that was supposed to have gone out on planes, but the planes had been shot up, so the admiral, he went out by submarine, and he took just one guy with him. And we got to go on the Peary. The Peary was quite a ride. We got going down the coast, and the Japs tried to bomb us.
On the Peary?
Yeah. But we pulled in alongside, you know, and got some branches off trees and stuff and kind of covered over a little bit. And then they really hit the high road. Just heading for, we were trying to get down to Australia. Well, the Japs didn't get a hit on us. They didn't try again, but we got down a ways further. And there was we saw a big plane, like it was off in the distance, just circling around. Never did find out whether that was a U.S. plane or what it was. But anyway, the next thing we knew, the Dutch came in with torpedo planes. And they did about, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them had dropped a torpedo but missed.
Oh, so they friendly fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they missed you completely?
Well, yeah, I mean, no identification.
Oh, sure.
Couldn't establish identification. Yeah, they missed us completely. And then we thought there was an American plane or something off in the distance. But we never could communicate with them. And after the Dutch came in, the Australians came in with dive bombers. And they got a hit on us. And they cut the steering rope. And, of course, the ship just got out of hand until we could get somebody down. And you have to man the steering grip.
So it locked hard to what, the left? And just kept going round and around?
Just going around.
Didn't you say a guy got thrown overboard during that too?
Yeah. One guy got thrown off. We never could get him back.
Never recovered him.
No. Pappy Doe got where the bomb hit. Just he was up. On the back. There's a little building like it had the washrooms in it, the toilets in it. It had the emergency radio station in it, and some other. Oh yeah, there's a remote steering arrangement up on deck.
Uh-huh.
And then all the rest of it was all underneath. And anyway, that's when we managed to get down in there and get control of the steering. And we worked our way in, and finally we tied off the coconut trees. And
oh, because this whole time you had no rudder, huh?
Yeah. A little island of Cavite. And we tied up the coconut trees there, and the captain took a little whaleboat he had, and he went on down in somewhere to Ambon, I guess. He came back a couple days later, and we got underway again. made our way down to Ambon. The Dutch really couldn't do enough for us. I mean, supplies and all kinds of stuff. And then they went on down to, arrived in Darwin, and they transferred us, the 7 of us, they transferred us to the Langley.
Mm-hmm.
And that was heading for Fremantle. And that's down further along the west side, Australia. They were going down there to take on a load of planes again. Well, they wanted to keep us aboard too. But they said, no, we got to go over, we got to go set up a station there. So the 7 of us then got off and went over to Australia, went to Perth. And we started setting up equipment there. That's where I met Phil then.
Sure.
She was radio operator in the Air Force.
No, Australian
Air
Force,
Force,
sure.
yeah. And anyway, we got a communications station going. Part of it was up in Kings Park, and part of it was in town. And I even got a truck with a trailer that had a transmitting equipment, and we went out in the boonies because they had an idea that the Japs were coming in and they wanted to get us out of town.
Sure.
So we were out there about a week or so, I guess. And then they decided, well, it didn't come in anyway, so we went back into town with it again. So anyway, then I worked there for a couple of years. I was there. And, well, yeah, that was 42, 43. And then I got orders to go back. Well, I made warrant officer, and I got orders to go back to this school, which is a one-year school in electronics engineering. And so Phil managed to get her, and Pat had been born, managed to get them on the same ship to go back.
So you and Phil got married while you were in Australia yet?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the three of you, Phyllis and Pat, all came back.
Yeah.
Well, where was your electronics school at then?
That was in Washington, D.C. area.
Okay. So was it on the Peary that you were telling me how that the skipper was directing the...
Yeah, well, he was laying on his back with his glasses watching, and whenever he'd see the bombs drop from the planes, he'd just order the helmsman to go left or right, whatever. Well, look at that.
Cobra bat. I found it in stock on the internet. The old Cobra bat I had.
Okay, well, we'll look at it in a little bit. Ask Kathy to save the page for you, Sam.
Alright.
Okay?
Alright.
Alright. And pull the door, would you, buddy?
Sure.
Okay. So what do you remember of the actual Navy Yard getting hit though in Kaviti?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember what you were doing that day? And I mean, did you guys have much warning?
Oh no, we didn't have any warning.
What were you doing when you first found out it was going on?
I had just been up to the restaurant in the Navy Yard and had a meal. And I was on my way back to the radio station, and these bombs started falling.
Oh, jeez.
So then I thought, well, I'll get out of this. So I went outside the gate and went down to where the ammunition depot was on the right.
Uh-huh.
And so they were dropping down, the bombs were dropping all the way around, down there and around the yard too. And anyway, I looked up and there was a Marine up on top of the ammunition depot with a 45 standing up there firing at the planes with a 45 and hollering as loud as he could, cussing. I remember that. So I thought, well, gee, let's see, I don't want to, the Filipinos were running around like mad. This is just outside the gate.
Uh-huh.
And so I just laid down the street alongside the building because I could see them. They were dropping daisy cutters. And
so what are the
Filipinos were getting sliced through the gut. And
the Filipinos were?
Yeah, running around the civilians.
Do those daisy cutters, they hit and then they
yeah, they go out, spread out.
But they come up off the ground a little, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, and the damn pieces of steel, you know.
Spread out in every direction, sure.
Yeah, just cut them down while they were running.
Jeez.
Anyway, that's why I laid down.
Yeah.
And when it stopped, then I got up and I went on over to where the radio transmitters were, across the causeway. And over there they said, well, we'll have to go over to Manila. And I don't remember how we got over there, whether we rode on over in the transport or whether we walked all the way over, but it was quite a run around.
Very bad.
Because I used to ride a bicycle over to Manila.
How far was that from the Navy Yard?
Oh, it must have been maybe 15, 20 miles, something like
Sure.
that. And we went over there and we took over the station, but we had to get out of there, kind of the open city arrangement they made. And we got wound up out on Corregidor, down in the tunnels. And boy, they were being bombed there, right? Day in, day out.
Hey, you said they had a pretty extensive tunnel system in
Oh,
Corregidor?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, big tunnel system in there. They had that for some time, I guess. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, anyway, we had to get out of there at night during the dark to get on the ship. And we left. The Japs were still bombing Corregidor. Boy, I mean, they plastered that place. Kept plastering it.
And that's when you got on the Peary, right?
Yeah. Just the 7 of us. And the regular crew. But that was a hectic trip. And actually the Peary got sunk down there too. Darwin.
So the Langley.
Yeah, well, the Langley got the planes on and came back up.
Uh-huh.
And then the Langley got sunk. And then the Pecos, which is an oil tanker, picked up what they could.
Mm-hmm.
It got sunk.
Jeez.
And all that was left was a couple of sort of destroyers around to pick up whatever they could. So it was hectic. I just got out of that stuff, just lucky as hell.
Just a couple of steps ahead of it.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, and then when I got it at the Navy Yard, we thought that was going to be bad enough. Yeah, I often think about, boy, a lot of our group got captured. We're in that death march.
The Bataan Death March? Sure.
Yeah. A lot of them were captured. Several years later, the fellow that had got his back filled with wire rope.
Pappy Doe?
Pappy Doe, yeah. He married an Australian girl too. They lived in Waukegan, and they invited us out. They were going to have a group. This is, of course, after the war. And I guess I had about a half a dozen of the radio operators. We got together in Pappy Doe's basement and just talked about the tough times they went through.
Sure.
Some of them really had tough times. One of the guys Japs had put him to work in a Navy yard, and he was talking about how a Japanese old fella had been so good to him, would give him little bits of food and stuff. But those guys had been through really rough times.
These are some of the guys that were on the march?
Yeah.
So at what point did they, did they get picked up for that? For the march? Because those would have been the same guys that were in the original 14, right? That you drew.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we were on Corregidor then. But only the 7 of us.
On Corregidor?
Yeah. Right, no, I guess there were 14, yeah. And 7 of us were picked out to go out with the Peary.
Oops, sorry, Rich. Sorry, lie down. Lie down.
I've got a book that the kids bought me, Navy, and in that is one section that talks about the Peary.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different version from what I remembered.
What kind of ship was the Peary again?
Destroyer.
A destroyer, okay.
Yeah, one of the old War I destroyers.
Uh-huh.
But it looked a little different because some of the stuff was not the same. It had been in the Navy Yard, as I say. It was under repair and going a lot of work on it. A lot of their depth charges actually were off. Their torpedoes, a lot of them were off because they'd take them off, and clean all the deck up and paint it. And but anyway, I saw as much as I wanted to see that I can remember. No, everything was nice in the Navy Yard until they started bombing.
Funny how that works.
Boy, they sure messed that yard.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they had a lot of the ammunition and stuff. It was just sitting over the docks with depth charges and torpedoes. That stuff started going up.
Oh, jeez.
Oh boy, they were tremendous. A lot of noise and fireworks. things are happening so fast you didn't have a chance to be scared or anything.
Yeah.
You didn't really realize what was going on.
Sure.
These things are happening so fast.
Was that your first time ever really taking any sort of fire then too?
Yeah.
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 Ooh, hell of an introduction.
Yeah, it was no fun. But there was a lot of fire. Boy. There was a ship tied up down at the end. It was going to be a submarine tender. Otis, I think the name was.
Otis?
If I remember right. And they were trying to get that underway while all this bombing was going on, and there were guys out there with axes chopping the rope so that the ship could get underway and at least have a chance. There was they had these little motor craft, not, maybe from there to the other wall, little yard craft that they run around there all the time. And one of them was going across the water, and a bomb hit it right direct on it. It just disappeared.
Wow.
And pretty soon, up flopped what there was of it.
Wow.
But that thing was steaming along, and you could see it disappear, and direct hit her, the bomb in the air. I don't know. I remember seeing an awful lot of stuff, but it's hard to picture it in your mind. Like all that bombing that was going on. The Navy Yard had all this equipment in there to fight off stuff, still box crates.
Like the anti-aircraft guns.
Didn't have anything to fire from the yard, really.
Just a 45.
Yeah, they're 45. That Marine out there on the top of the ammunition depot, standing there, cussing like hell and just pulling a 45 pistol, shooting at those airplanes. At least he was getting the self-satisfaction shooting.
Sure.
I'm sure he knew he wasn't reaching anything.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've often thought about that guy, whether he survived or not, I don't know. But all I did was just lay down in the street with my back up against the wall. I could see everything that was going on down the street. And I was glad I was out of the Navy Yard because that was really saturated with bombs.
So you had gone to a restaurant outside of the Navy Yard?
No, in the Navy Yard itself there was a restaurant.
Okay.
They had one up by the gate.
And you got out of it once you started getting hit?
I got out of there. I was on my way back to the radio station.
Oh, and the radio station was outside the Navy Yard?
No, that was on the other side. No, the Navy Yard had a big section. The radio station was built over on that side, and over on the other side, all the poles and the wires were all in the water.
Mm-hmm.
and their antennas were all out in the water out there. And then down here there was, on this end, there was like a dock there, and that was where the ship was tied up.
Mm-hmm.
And then on around, all that was all the workshops and everything that were in the Navy Yard. So it's really quite a good area,
Mm-hmm.
good sized area. And they had a ball field right in the middle of the thing from. Never saw a ball game there though. Yeah. Well, I tell you, everything I had went up when the radio station, of course, burned up.
Wow.
Except the actual clothing I had on.
Wow.
I didn't have anything left. And I was trying to think, some way or another, somebody got us entrance to a uniform. I don't know, some kind of a military supply place where we managed to get some uniforms to put on. And the Salvation Army gave us toothbrushes and paste and shaving gear, stuff like that. But I had nothing left except the clothes I had on me. Gee, I had a lot of souvenirs and stuff that I had picked up here and there. Nothing of that left. When I went out back out to Shanghai in '46, I managed to get a little shopping done. I got a kimono for Phyllis and a few other things like that.
So when were you doing the, you ended up on a riverboat, is that what you said, right?
Oh, the riverboat, well, that was 36. 37 that was. That was when the Panay, which was a riverboat.
Panay?
Panay, P-A-N-A-Y.
P-N-A-Y?
Yeah, it was just a small boat that had some capability of firing. I mean, it had some guns and stuff on it. But they used to patrol the river. And they were way upriver, and they got attacked by the Japanese. And we, on the Augusta, some of them managed to get on some kind of craft and came downriver anyway, and they came aboard the Augusta, some of the survivors.
This was those on the Panay got attacked? Yeah. So the Japanese attacked an American ship?
Oh yeah, they sunk it.
In 36?
37.
37?
Yeah.
Why would they attack? Why?
Don't ask me.
That wasn't enough to spark something more.
Well, they were already fighting the Chinese.
They were fighting the Chinese in the Philippines?
No, this was in China.
This is in China, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's up from Shanghai. Yeah. Oh, the Japs, they had a whole bunch of artillery laid out just on the pier across from where we were anchored in the river. And I had a bunch of pictures of that. I sent that all into the Navy Department. They wanted to know if we had pictures of anything, so I got all that stuff together and shipped it to the Navy.
Now, was that where Was that where you saw the one Chinese guy that all the Japanese guys were shooting at? How did that go again? Where were you set up, and what was happening there?
Well, I was on we were on the ship in the Augusta, and we were in the mid-river, and we could see both sides.
What was the name of the river?
I guess it's the Yangtze, I don't know.
The Yangtze, okay.
Anyway, it was all built up over in that area, and it was all built up over in this area.
Military?
No, this is regular
Civilian sort of
constructions,
stuff?
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, the Japanese also had a ship tied up on this side of the river, down further. And they were firing into, this is what they called Putung Point, and they were firing into that area, just from the ship across there. Well, that was maybe a couple thousand feet below us. And we could see a guy sneaking through with a rifle.
Chinese guy?
On that side, yeah, it must have been. With a rifle, and he popped a guy on the river, on this side of the river, a Jap, and everybody started firing back into that point. And boy, I mean, they just kept blasting into that. And pretty soon we see the guys sneaking around, going out the other way. And
so he popped a guy right off the boat, huh?
Yeah, he got a guy right on the boat. Yeah. But boy, I mean, I just thought all that power going in to try and get that one guy.
One guy, yeah.
And then they didn't get him anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was that on the Augusta then too, where you had said the destroyer was shooting over you guys, and was it your admiral had said told the guys to
Fleet Admiral, yeah.
So the fleet admiral was on the Augusta with you?
Yeah.
Was that the same point?
Yeah, well, we were all in the same area, and this one ship came up and just started firing over the after part of our ship.
This is a Japanese destroyer?
It was a Japanese ship. I don't know what it was.
Oh, okay.
It was a Jap ship, and I understand the admiral told them to get the hell out of there, and they obeyed. He had the guns all turned on them.
Yeah, because at first they didn't, right?
Yeah.
And then they swung the guns around and they got out of there. Yeah, I suppose. So what did they have the Americans patrolling the Chinese rivers for?
Oh, well, that thing was out there years and years they've had.
Huh. I did not know that.
Well, the Marine Corps had a place out there too.
In China?
Yeah. Yeah, they had a radio station, everything. We used to communicate with them. Well, one day, there was a Jap, small boat, well, not too small, but it went upriver along the side of where we were, went on alongside of us, went on upriver, and must have had 20 or more Jap soldiers in that, all of them with guns and everything. And they went upriver, and maybe about an hour later, the boat came back down, and it was a mess.
Sheesh.
Oh, Jesus. People in it were dead or dying or... But the Chinese managed to get in a few pretty good shots at
I
it.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it was some hectic days, and
Mm-hmm.
but I had some really good pictures of all the armor that the Japs had all lined up along the field guns and everything.
Unreal.
Yeah, well, the Japs and the Chinese had quite a war went on there for quite a while.
So what did you do after you got through electronics school?
Well, when I graduated from the electronics school, I was ordered down to New Orleans. And we were going to take equipment off of, they had a lot of these, well, I guess fishing boats, the big ones, you know, and they had stuffed a lot of electronics gear on them, and we were supposed to be taking it off. But I was going to be the electronics officer on a mobile repair unit that was making up to go overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the war was declared. I don't know, just after I got transportation down there, or anyway, the war was declared over. As I got down there, the war was over. So now there's no place for me to go. So I just went to the communication officer down there and said, well, I've been out for a number of years out in the Asiatic fleet. I'd like to get stationed here. He said, oh, yeah, I can use you. He said, I put in a request for me to stay there. Boy, a couple of weeks, I guess. I had orders to Shanghai, China.
So Pat would have been how old then when you got shipped to China?
Well, she was about a year old, I guess, when we got back.
So then it was another year in electronics school, so she would have been 2, a little over 2.
Then we had Janet, because Janet was born in Washington.
How many years apart are Pat and Janet?
I think there's one or two. I think it's 2. I'm not sure. And then Kathy was the third one. And Kathy was born when I was out, when I had to shop. Kathy was born in Philadelphia. Yeah.
You enlisted in 28 or 29?
29. March 29.
Okay.
So I had my 50 years in March of 59. Had my 30 years.
Yeah, you're 30 years, yeah.
So then I retired as the chief warrant.
After 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kathy was still, yeah, she would have been, she was born 54? Yeah, 54.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, so, okay.
Yeah, that was when I had the shop.
In Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Boy, that was a hurry up birth too. He was on the cart.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were taking Phyllis in on a cart, and in comes the baby. And she was born breech. Yeah, Pat was born in Australia, Janet in Washington, D.C. And that was when I was going to school down there. And Kathy had the radio shop.
And what was the name of the town in Pennsylvania you're from?
Stuckertown.
Stuckertown, that's right.
Stockertown, S-T-O-C-K. E-R-T-O-W-N.
How big a town was that?
Not very big. I was on the council.
Really?
Yeah, I did my time in politics. Yeah, I was a councilman. They came around and said, "Hey, you've been elected." I said, "Huh?" "Yeah, you're on the council."
You didn't run for office.
Well, we did one good thing, boy. That place was, everything was covered with cement.
With cement?
Yeah. Just out of the air.
Cement dust.
Cement dust.
Oh, jeez.
And all the sidewalks used to be a little rough.
Uh-huh.
They're all smooth, you know. And so we put in a squawk.
A what?
A squawk.
Oh, a swat. Okay.
A squawk, yeah. And we said, "Hey, the cement mill, you got to cut back on your output."
Uh-huh.
And they did after we had a little fight about it, but they did. They cut down. They installed some kind of stuff in the smokestacks to cut it down. Yep.
So how long did you have the TV and radio repair shop?
When I first got out again in '52, I went down Federated Radio Supply. I got a job working there. But I only worked about, I don't know, maybe a month or less. And I got a lot of requests from people to, "Hey, take a look at my radio. Hey, take a look at my, you know." So I thought, well, maybe I can make a living here. So I built a little shop next to property that we built a new house there. Built a little shop and opened up for business. I had all I could handle.
So you got out in 52 and then you were in the reserves till 59, right?
Yeah.
Naval Reserve. Oh, okay, that's how you got your 30 years. I couldn't quite make the, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, actually, in 29,
Uh-huh.
not 29, 49.
Mm-hmm.
Then I transferred to Fleet Reserve.
Okay.
That was 20 years.
Okay, right, that makes sense.
Except I went up and told the skipper I'd like to get out. And he said, well, look, just hang around for another year or so. I said, so I did. I stayed around a little longer because he asked me if I would stay. And then when I went back to him again and said, well, I'm ready to get out now, he says, okay, no problem. But that was at the school, the electronics school. We took over a lot of the old buildings they had, and they sent shipment after shipment of spare parts and from the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
And all that stuff jammed what used to be, quarters, like for students and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we had all these buildings got filled up with spare parts.
Jeez.
So then I would get kids from school to go through, sort resistors, capacitors, all kinds of, everything you can imagine.
Sure.
And made cards for everything. And they counted. Oh boy, ugh. We must have had 100,000 different items there, and more than that.
So when did you, when you lost your thumb at the first knuckle, when did that happen again? Was that in 29 also?
Yeah.
Right after you got in?
Yeah, I was in boot camp.
In boot camp? Okay.
Yeah, and then when I got out of the hospital, I had to go back to boot camp.
To finish?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
jeez.
so what they did, they made me mail clerk. No problem there.
Jeez.
Yeah, I had to go back and finish it. So I got that time in, and I, of course, got sent to see, hey, Mom,
Hey,
it's now 11:24.
I gotta go watch this guy.
I have a list of the quarters that Sam is missing out of his quarter collection thing. You know, the thing